Greetings and welcome to another episode of Q Points Podcast. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is J. Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III and Sir Daniel. In the early 1980s, you could not tell me that having a British accent as a black man wasn't the coolest thing ever. It was a whole mood.
It certainly was. We are about to talk about the other British invasion.
Yes.
But not just the British invasion, a Caribbean British invasion.
Yes.
J. Ray, we're talking about Caribbean kings on this episode. And I've left a great opportunity to start singing there on the table. But we're not going to do that because I know we want to get to the conversation. But J. Ray, I think what this generation is missing is the smooth tones of a Caribbean born singer. So J. Ray, you and I benefited from the fruits of the Windrush generation as kids growing up in the 80s. And if you're not familiar, we talked about the Windrush generation on this podcast before, but they are a generation of Caribbean immigrants that landed in England, London, England, starting in 1948. There was an influx of people from Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Guyana, Grenada, all over that went over to England, like most immigrants, to go to this country to better their lives, seeking employment, seeking other freedoms, but mostly to make money and to become, to gain employment and to send money back home, of course, to their families that couldn't make it. But J. Ray, what we got from this Windrush generation was an amazing, amazing history of Black music that I don't think anybody really taps in or talks about in this music atmosphere. And Q Points is the only show doing it. So take that, everybody. And so we're going to start. We can't not talk about the Caribbean Kings. And there's four in particular that we want to highlight, but we can't start without talking about Bob Marley, who debuted in 1965 with the Wailers in a group, but then he became an international superstar. And one of his stops, of course, was London, England.
Yeah. So I do think Bob Marley is kind of the gateway to opening the door for popular culture, and when I'm saying popular culture in this case, I do mean white folks, to be exposed to, in Bob Marley's case, reggae, but more expansively, music of the Caribbean, because I feel like reggae is just kind of this box, but I feel like what Bob Marley and Bob Marley and the Wailers were doing was a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of soul with the reggae foundation. But yeah, Bob Marley is kind of the gateway. And so when Bob Marley goes solo, he becomes an international superstar. And when I was growing up, there was a moment, and I think I talked about this on our Bob Marley show, where you would see a Bob Marley concert, like they would air it on TV, because I wasn't as familiar. I think, and I was super young, because I think he died in like 1981. But they showed this Bob Marley concert, and it was packed to the gills with people. Yes. And he was performing this music that I was at that point unfamiliar with. But the size of the crowd was amazing. But what I think Bob Marley did was it gave way to the possibility of Black men being pop superstars on the international stage. And that's what I think Bob Marley was able to do for this group of men. I think he really did open the door for that possibility.
He absolutely did. And what he did, so if you remember, at their inception, so in 1965, we're still on, as far as style is concerned, we're still coming off the tail end of the 50s, where a lot of musicians are suited and booted. They're, in well-tailored suits, hair's cut, everybody is coiffed and looks very mainstream and palatable for various audience,
Yes.
different audiences. So when we fast forward to the end of the 60s, they went from that buttoned up style, then they went to the
Mm-hmm.
mod style of dressing. Then we get into the hippie era.
Yeah.
And so what you find though is that Bob Marley um, delves into the Rastafari culture
Yes.
and grows out his hair, grows out the locks. Then the Rastafari culture literally takes over London.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of those British kids, even the white kids that were into hippie culture, and they
Yes.
gravitated to that Rastafarian culture, the way of dressing. And if you know, and there is a line, Jerry, and this is a whole nother topic, but there is a line between um, Rastafarian Jamaican culture and ska
Scott
to
Punk.
punk
Mm-hmm.
and also to the skinheads,
To
which
the
is
skin, which
really
is really wild. But you're
wow.
right.
There's a
But
through line there, yes.
there's a through line there, and so that's so interesting that you do draw this line, because I do think for the gentleman that we're about to talk about, right? So as we get into the mid to late 1970s, and I love that you called it at the top the other British invasion,
Yes.
because what we find in kind of the I think the first big breakout star of this group, who actually takes over the 1980s as well, is Billy Ocean. Kind of starts on the R&B side of things, you know.
Yeah, funky
Nights,
R&B.
baby, funky R&B. Nights is still just like an amazingly funky track. And but then, as the 1980s move on, pivots into like this pop superstardom. But there's black artists that came from the UK, ended up on the R&B charts in the US,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of became this phenomenon. But it's a phenomenon that oftentimes we just kind of overlook. But it was really important to how black artists in the US even began to make music later on. So these men are like really pivotal.
They're very pivotal and important. But I just wanted a little footnote. I don't want to forget Musical Youth, because
Can we talk about them, please? Yes.
who like literally a boy band
Yeah.
out of London, England. Um, Huge. I mean, and when I say boys, I literally mean
Yeah,
boys.
boys.
These are
They were boys. These are
children.
children.
These are children who saw stardom at a very early age and were like became so huge to the point that it their careers, it affected them,
Yeah.
you know, clearly. But they are part of what that imagination, what America could see as with black men becoming the front men of these huge international bands and even solo artists. So they are part of that foundation, because if you don't have Bob Marley and the Wailers, you don't have
Don't have a
Musical
musical
Youth.
youth.
And then if you don't have
Yeah.
Musical Youth, then you don't have your Billy Oceans and your Junior Griscoms that
Yeah.
were all, that all came along and became huge pop stars in the mid 80s, the
Yeah.
early 80s.
The early 80s. So, fun fact, we give Michael Jackson a lot of love for how he kind of kicked open the door on like the MTV side of things. So I think there's something that I want to make sure we bring into the conversation too. Music video made it easy for this transition to happen, right?
Mhm.
Because first of all, music video in Europe and in the UK in particular was kind of a medium that folks were really familiar with, because bands, if we think back to Bohemian Rhapsody, like Queen did a music video in like 1974,
Yes.
75, right? So it was something that people were familiar with. So it made it easy to kind of like have this visual to go. Musical Youth actually predated Michael Jackson on MTV. So when we talk about black artists being played on MTV, which was rock and roll centered,
Mm-hmm.
Musical Youth predated Michael Jackson by several months. So Musical Youth is actually the first Black artist that MTV played. It wasn't.
Yes.
We give Michael Jackson a lot of love because it was huge, but
Right.
it was actually Musical Youth that cracked open that door.
And see, once again, nobody's talking about this British invasion that happened. You know, Billy Ocean is most of everybody knows that most of these groups are Jamaican from Jamaica. Billy Ocean is Trinidadian.
Yep.
And which is huge at the time. And like you were saying, the music was super R&B. Like you see Nights is right behind me,
Yeah.
and Stay the Night. Those are like major R&B, big R&B records that you can play in any cool 80s R&B set to this day.
Yep.
I mentioned Junior Giscombe, who I found out. So he's British born and raised, but of course he has Jamaican parents. And we all know Junior from Mama Used to Say, which was a huge record.
You can hear it right now on classic R&B radio somewhere in this country.
Absolutely. It's been sampled in Positive K's I Got a Man. So much to say about Junior Giscombe, and I don't think he gets a lot of love, the love that he should. But again, he's someone that pushed that pop envelope so that room can be made for an Eddy Grant, who is out of Guyana.
Yeah.
Which is, I have to represent for Guyana. That's where my my mother is from, and our family is from Guyana. And I didn't even know that until I became an adult that Eddy Grant was Guyanese. And that's such a huge deal because there aren't any other major pop stars from Guyana that you can point at. I mean, there's lots of different bands and whatnot, and there are people of Guyanese descent. There's some MCs that are of Guyanese descent, but we're talking Eddy Grant. If you don't remember, rocked us down to Electric Avenue. That song is still to this day is a monster. Is a monster jam. It marries rock. It marries punk. It marries ska.
New wave. It's all in there.
All in there. And he continues that Rastafarian. He brought that Rastafarian culture with him as well.
Yeah.
Because he represented in the music videos. J Ray was telling me a very funny story about how that video
freaked Electric Avenue. So I was an MTV kid, and so I remember when Electric Avenue was playing on MTV. I was fortunate in that we had cable early. I remember when Electric Avenue was playing on MTV as like a new song, and it was something about the colors, the amalgamation of sounds, and there was like a water theme that freaked me out because he like falls into the water and then ends up on the beach. I don't know why that video scared me so much, but as a kid, it really did. But I want to lift up something that you mentioned, going back to that amalgamation of sounds. First of all, two things. Eddy Grant wrote and produced that record.
The whole record
in Guyana. This is like squarely, I think, in Guyana. Don't quote me on that. Y'all let us know in the chat. But I really do think he like went back to Guyana and like did this record. So it's really kind of it's self-produced, self-written, which is great for Eddy Grant. You got a huge hit off that, bruh. I hope you're still collecting your checks. But it married all of these things that were kind of like catnip. So those striking keyboards, the big guitar, you know what I'm saying? For rock and roll. And then you get the little whispers of the reggae happening as well. So it was literally catnip. And that particular song became just like, it was everywhere. Now he did have which you reminded me of, Romancing the Stone, which was apparently supposed to be closely associated with the film, ended up not happening. So there's like a song, Romancing the Stone by Eddy Grant, that was supposed to be attached to the film Romancing the Stone, but they ended up somehow getting separated. But Eddy Grant in the early 1980s in the U.S. was one of those artists that came out of this canon who was groundbreaking.
So speaking of romancing the stone, shout out to Billy Ocean again, who also had a major hit with when the going gets tough,
The
for
tough get
which
going.
appeared on the sequel of Romancing the Stone, which is Jewel of the Nile, correct?
Yep.
So that to have for both of these gentlemen to have songs associated with these major motion pictures, still huge moves and pushing the envelope for more men of Caribbean descent to come on the scene. And we can't get away from Billy Ocean's hits though. Like, we talk about the pop standards, you talked about, we had the R&B standards that he came out with that were super funky. Then he went into this pop direction,
Pivoted.
that we could not escape from. Caribbean Queen, first of all, on a musical side, Caribbean Queen blends in with Michael Jackson's Billie Jean marvelously. So all you DJs out there, that's for you. You're welcome. Caribbean Queen and Billie Jean, they rhyme and they sound good when you blend them together. But that song was on the charts forever. So we had that. But can we talk about the ballads? He had that ballad rivals anything that Lionel Richie had on the radio at the time. Suddenly was everywhere.
So I think the thing, and this is something that Quincy Jones used to talk about a lot, is ear candy.
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean Queen and Suddenly were like ear candy. They had like these repeatable sing-songy things that you just couldn't get out of your head. Like literally Caribbean Queen to this day, it plays in my head. It looks and sounds like summer of 1984. Like it looked like when I hear it, it's like I'm suddenly 7. I'm suddenly 7. And real quick, Sir Daniel, and this is a tangent, but I'm gonna go here. I love how we say Caribbean and Caribbean. I don't know what.
But
no,
it depends on where you're from.
It depends on where you, and that's what I had to get in my head. I'm like, oh, it depends on where you from. Is how you say it. But I always thought that was funny. I'm like, I don't know which way to do it right, and I'm guessing like they're both right.
Just say both, yeah. They're interchangeable. And this is somebody who is of Caribbean descent. Like I've heard it both all my life, Caribbean and Caribbean. It just depends on who's saying it to you. But shout out to Keith Vincent, who produced that song, also from Trinidad and Tobago. So this whole thing was in-house. All of these hits were in-house made. And there was something else I was going to make. Oh, speaking of Caribbean Queen, J. Ray, we discovered, and I actually saw the record myself in the store once. Did you all know that Caribbean Queen was such a major hit that the record labels insisted that Billy Ocean created different versions for different countries or different continents. So there is in fact a version called European Queen.
There is a European Queen.
Is so in this climate that we're living in today is very telling and problematic. But we're not gonna. This is a fun show. We're not gonna delve into that. But there's a reason why they probably insisted that he make a Caribbean Queen record.
Yeah.
And I'm sure. Go ahead.
No. I'm like, they were sitting there like, okay, so Billy. But so there's a European Queen, and I didn't know this either until I was getting ready for this show, but there's an African Queen too, but it's specifically for South Africa. So South Africa needed their own version of Caribbean Queen.
I wonder which South Africans, but
you know exactly which South Africans that was for, because we were still in apartheid at that point. And yeah,
South Africans maybe. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. So that song, it was set up to be an international crossover success. Yes. So they set that song up, and Billy Ocean. So I have this up, Sir Daniel, because I didn't know this. This is according to the Wikipedia, but Billy Ocean won the ASCAP Pop Awards 7 times between 1986 and 1989. 7. Caribbean Queen, Loverboy, Suddenly, There'll Be Sad Songs to Make You
To make you
Cry.
cry.
Listen, that is like a classic 60s, like, oh my God. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, Love is Forever, and I think his last big pop hit, Get Out of My Dreams,
Dream and get into my
car.
car.
That was a hilarious title.
And of course, you know that made it to Wall Street and was
Of
in
course.
car commercials and
Yes.
everything. So, y'all, we know Billy Ocean is that man.
Yes.
Like Billy Ocean, if we're gonna think about it, Billy Ocean gave all the brothers here in the 80s a run for their money. I'm telling you, Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Billy Ocean was giving them a run for the money.
Absolutely.
Big time. And Jerry, so like you said, what year was that Get Out of My
Dreams, Get Into My Car. Let me see when that was released. That was released in 1988 and produced by Mutt Lange. I'm sorry, produced by Mutt Lange, written by Billy Ocean and Mutt Lange.
So fast forward, so 88, so it took about a good 4 years before we had another
British invasion.
Another British invasion of Caribbean descent with Maxi Priest.
Yes.
And Maxi Priest literally came along and was like, when he came through with Close to You, it felt so familiar. Was like it literally it felt like Billy Ocean was still singing on this. Like we can hear Billy Ocean, we can hear Bob Marley and those, and then the way Maxi Priest presented Rastafari, super long locks, but this song was so tender and so beautifully produced, that gave us that nice, I call it the soul to soul groove, the Nelly Hooper kind of groove behind it, which made it very palatable to us here in the United States.
So Close to You for me, once again, much like Caribbean Queen, smells and feels like 1990. Like it's a summertime. It's a song that reminds me of a specific period of time. I don't know if the memory that I'm about to share is true, but it's the memory that I feel the most when I hear that song. So by then I am 12 or 13. So the way I would go to sleep is I would play the radio. So I always had like the radio next to my bed, and so I would play the radio. And typically overnight on radio at the time, it would be soul jams, pretty much, and relaxing music all night long during the week. And I remember on like the Quiet Storm on Power 99 first hearing this song, and it was just like, what is this? This is beautiful. It just felt so soothing in a time when hip hop was taking over everything. You had this song kind of sneak in and have this beautiful melody, and still that hook to this day just kind of sends me to a place. It is an absolute gorgeous song.
It is, and again, because when you write a song like that, when you produce a song in that nature, that way, it's timeless.
Yes.
That, like, I can play that song. It came out in 1990. I can play that song today in a New Jack's swing set, a slow jam set, and it goes off. It still resonates with people. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so shout out to Maxi Priest, who I believe also did a duet with the last brother that we're going to talk about, which is Shabba Ranks.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because I think Shabba Ranks might have been the last Caribbean invasion, Caribbean mega superstar that we saw. I mean, we had, you had your Boujoux and whatnot
Mm-hmm.
over that, but I think Shabba Ranks had an impact in the United States that was unlike anybody else, because in night that period between 90 to 93, 94, Shabba Ranks was on fire. When
Mm-hmm.
Ting-a-ling came out, there was people that had never been to Jamaica, had never even had a Jamaican beef patty, were singing that song "Ting-a-ling" like it was this. I mean, it was a fantastic song. But Shabba Ranks had also had mega crossover appeal with ballads. This y'all gotta put some ballads out, guys. The
Yes.
ballads are what will take you over and will give you longevity. But Mr. Loverman
Yeah.
was
Shabba.
Shabba. I mean, it also gave us comedy gold
Yep.
because they lampooned that on in Living Color.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Shabba Ranks came around, and let me tell you something. When Shabba performs today, crazy. The response is still just as crazy as it was in the 90s.
Yeah. I'm so glad we get a chance to just kind of lift up Shabba Ranks, because yeah, he took all of this stuff that had come before and mixed in the dance hall piece, because we were by now in that moment in time. So it still felt familiar, but it also felt like really new. And Shabba Ranks spawned the then American need to have like a reggae
A reggae.
rhyme on like
Mhm.
every album in the early 1990s. So you either had a reggae influenced song, or you
Mhm.
were doing a rap, or somebody was doing a rap that kind of reminded you of what Shabba Ranks was doing. He had a huge impact on the moment.
Huge impact, kick down the doors, and then like you were saying, then you open the door, then we can get a Super Cat, we get a
Mm-hmm.
Boujou, we get a Red Rat, we get all these people that, like you said, show up on these remixes, especially a lot of hip hop remixes.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have everybody doing hybrids, Mad
Yep.
Lion,
Yep.
and then you get reggae remixes of hip hop songs, and then you get reggae
Mm-hmm.
remixes of R&B songs. So again, these brothers came in and changed the game in their own lanes. So as we wrap up, we don't want to. I know you're probably thinking like, how can you not talk about Loose Ends? We can't. We didn't forget about Carl McIntosh from Loose
Yep.
Ends.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't confirm his descent, but I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts.
Oh yeah.
There's some Caribbean connection in there. There's some Caribbean blood clanking around in those veins. But shout out to Carl McIntosh and the Loose Ends crew,
Mm-hmm.
who is still doing his thing in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another impactful group on
Yeah.
R&B and here in the United States. So that was your lesson, kids, on the Caribbean British invasion
Yeah.
of the early 80s into the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah. Go back and play these songs, y'all. All of them be bopping. So in fact, we should put out a playlist so that y'all can check out some of the joints. But
That's when the going gets tough.
tough. When I'm going listen, Billy Ocean was killing the game. So make sure that you subscribe. If you can see our faces or hear our voices wherever you are, subscribe to the show, share the show with your friends, family, colleagues, because if you love Q Points, they will love Q Points as well. Visit our website at qpoints.com. You can do a whole bunch of stuff over there. You can listen to our archive of shows, which are dope. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You could get over to our Substack, because we have a whole bunch of stuff over on our Substack as well. You can become a member if you want to do. You can do all the things. Do them all, right? Also, you can shop our store at store.qpoints.com. Excuse me. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us.
We certainly do. And as I say in every episode, in this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I'm DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, y'all.
And this has been Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. We will see you on the next go round. Shabba! Peace, y'all.
Peace.